for tuning into Like a Southern Girl. This is where I'm committing to recording one short podcast every single week, tackling a specific question or challenge sent in by one of you. If you get value from anything that I share here today, please do me a favour. Follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with your mates. So this week, I didn't have any specific questions sent in, but I did have a really good conversation with a mate of mine who is raising a couple of teenagers. And she was getting super frustrated with how they're managing their money, or more precisely, how specifically they're not managing their money. So I've been there, actually, and I've been a lot worse than that. So this is what we're gonna unpack today. So growing up, I learned the value of hard work early. I was always a worker. I was out on the farm. I got my first job at the kitchen in the local Mosman pub when I was 12. I was working weekends, and I was working every summer holiday as a rousey for crutching gangs. But by the time I hit university, I was also working 30 hours a week on top of my full-time study. Learned the value of hard work. I did an MBA, I studied finance, I landed a job in corporate finance with Deloitte at 22. So you'd think with all of that, I would have got my money sorted, right? Wrong, so wrong. I spent nearly all of it, not on anything meaningful, just on stuff I didn't need. And the small amount I had actually managed to save, I handed it over to a guy who a few years later went to jail for running a Ponzi scheme. So when I was 29 and I walked away from my six-figure salary to build a new life and start my business, Real Country, I had less than $2,000 in my bank account. No shit, no investments, no savings. It was pathetic. Honestly, actually really quite shocking. But here's the thing, I had never ever been taught about money. I didn't know what compounding interest was. I had no idea what passive investing was, or what an index fund or ETF was. And if I'm being fully honest, I think because I was earning such a good salary at a young age, I had this self-entitlement where I thought that I would just always be earning that kind of money. So why would I need to save for anything? I don't know, maybe quitting your career to start a business might have been a good time to save. Also having kids might have been good to have something in the back for then. But honestly, for a woman who considered herself to be smart, I was being just incredibly dumb with my finances. Everything changed the moment I left that corporate salary, and I went straight into minimum wage job while bootstrapping my own business. And that's where cash became king. And I started learning, and I was listening to podcasts, Girls That Invest, which is now Friends That Invest, Minority Mindset, all these other different podcasts, and I started putting together the basics. I never had the time to do detailed research on investing, but I did learn how to save. I learned how to pay my future self first, pay the bills, and then only spend what was left over after that. Then 5 years ago, when I fell pregnant for the first time, I got really serious. Properly serious. I started putting as much as I could each week into automatic investments through Hatch, spread across just a range of ETFs and index funds. I set up the direct debit so the money was invested the moment I got paid. The auto invest with Hatch did the work. I never checked it or fiddled with it. I just went without a lot of stuff for a long time, and I kept investing everything I could. Because I was thinking, what if the baby needs me to stay at home? What if I got too tired to work? What if the income just stopped? So I removed that money from my own reach completely. I was more motivated than I'd ever been. Isla arrived, turns out she was a fantastic baby, and I was able to keep earning. But then a couple of years later, baby number 2 was on the cards, and the same fear crept back. What if I genuinely can't work as a mum of 2? But this time, there was nothing to worry about because I hadn't dropped the ball once. I'd kept investing the whole time. Always putting my wants last and going without, because I was building a leg up for my future self. Joseph came along and I was still able to keep going and earning an income, which is lucky. And I've kept going through a global pandemic and having 2 babies and running my own business. And honestly, learning how to manage my money and invest in my future self came at exactly the right time to take the pressure off. But here's the thing I wish, almost more than anything, that I'd understood all of this as a teenager. If I had a mindset back then, I would probably genuinely a billionaire by now. As it stands, I have $100,000 sitting in Hatch, and that's no small feat, and that's something I'm very genuinely proud of. I've also set up Sharesies accounts for both of my children. So every month I put money into their accounts, and every birthday I add an additional $200 on top. So by the time they're 21, they'll have a solid amount sitting there that's compounded year on year into a tidy sum they can use to start a business or put towards a house. As my kids get older, I'll teach them exactly what I learned the hard way. Pay your future self first. Buy only what you need, then spend what's left. And they'll be in a far better position than I ever was. Because I'm being now deliberate about how I teach them to manage their money, and I'll make sure they have the confidence to do it themselves. The confidence that I never had. So if you're sitting where I was 10 years ago, clueless, a bit self-entitled, head in the sand about your finances, and with zero financial confidence, here's a few starting points. Here is something that actually doesn't get said enough either. Most of us were never actually taught how to manage money. We were just expected to figure it out. And then, like if you were like me, spent years feeling guilty or stressed or confused about why none of it was clicking. So if you've ever avoided checking your bank account because you didn't want to know, you're not bad with money, you're just working without the right tools. So let's fix that right now. There are a few things working against us as women. We're often the ones managing the household, like managing all of the household spending, but we're not always the ones with full visibility over the bigger financial picture. We're more likely to have career interruptions. We're statistically less likely to negotiate our salaries. And a lot of us have been told, like directly or indirectly, that money is complicated and someone else should handle it for us. Which is how I got into the sticky position in the first place, investing money with a dude who's still in jail for running a Ponzi scheme. Now, like none of this is our fault, but all of it is ours to change. So the practical starting point. Number one, know your numbers. Before you can manage money well, you need to know what's actually going on. For 1 week, track every single thing that you spend, not to judge yourself, but just to see the reality. Most people are genuinely shocked by what they find. Give every dollar a job. So this is step number 2. This is the core of good money management. When your pay lands, decide in advance where it's going. Bills, savings, spending, before you start spending it. It's called a zero-based budget, and it is the most simplest, most effective system there is. Step number 3, pay yourself first. Before you pay anything else, put something aside for you. Even if it's $20 a week to start, the habit matters more than the amount, especially early on. Number 5, set up a direct investment, automatic transfer for the day after payday. So that money automatically goes out before you get the chance to actually spend it. You need to then get clear on wants versus needs. This isn't about deprivation, it's about being intentional. Needs keep you alive and functional. Wants make life more enjoyable. And you are allowed to have both. The problem only comes when we're not honest with ourselves about which is which. Build a small emergency fund first, before you invest, before extra debt repayments. Get $1,000 or whatever sitting somewhere untouched. And that single step removes the panic that comes with unexpected costs, like a car breaking down, or you get a chip in your windscreen and you need to repair your windscreen and you've already done it twice this year and insurance won't pay out. Happened to me. And it stops you sliding further into debt every time something goes wrong. And finally, stop comparing your situation to everyone else's. You genuinely don't know what is behind anyone else's lifestyle. What looks like success is often just debt run with a good front. So run your own race. And now, I guess the mindset piece. Money confidence and personal confidence are far more connected than most people realize. Women who feel good about themselves in general are more likely to ask for a pay rise, negotiate a bill, set a financial boundary, and make decisions from a place of clarity instead of panic. If the money side of things feels emotionally loaded to you, then that's worth paying attention to. It usually means there's something deeper worth working on, like alongside these practical steps that we've talked about. So if any of that sounds familiar, here is where I'd start. And if you want more detail and more strategies straight from the CEO of Hatch, the investment platform I personally use, you can grab my financial confidence online course for just $9.99. It's cheap, not because it isn't valuable, it really is, but because I genuinely believe learning how to manage your money and setting yourself up for the future shouldn't cost you the earth. So that's it for this week. If you would like me to tackle your particular challenge, your issue, your question, I've got nothing lined up for next week, so I can unpack it on the show. Please just email it through to me at laura@southerngirl.co.nz. And if you want more practical tools on how to earn real confidence, head on to the website, southerngirl.co.nz. Thanks for listening.